for the loser of both of these matchups. Best case scenario, they're on the draw for an elimination match. Worst case scenario, the tournament's over.
Well, the boss and the Duke. I think first and second in fantasy drafts that did happen for the Players' Championship, and not a bad place to be. Two great players, incredibly accomplished, but only one can win this match. And we're going to see what's going to be. Tom has gotten it done once before. You see, no leather coat, still got the nice suit and tie.
I think the three people that everyone talked about going into this tournament, in my mind, are two best players, Reid Duke and Tom Ross, and the best metagamer in the tournament, Brad Nelson, still alive, but this could potentially be the end of the road for either Tom or Reid.
Gataxian Probe will show you a counterspell, a Sensei's Divining Top, a Red Elemental Blast and a Brainstorm, along with a Mountain, an Arid Mesa, and a Scalding Tarn. So the boss will record the contents there, go down to 18 in the process. He'll get to draw card 2, and we'll see how he starts things off. You can already see an Invigorate in his hand, just picked up a copy of Pendelhaven. Force of Will, Blighted Agent over there. Looks as though there's a Glistener Health hanging out too. You're not wasting any time. Now, how does he want to lead things off? He's going to go with Pendelhaven plus Glistener Elf and pass the turn back over to Duke. Duke will draw a card.
Wants to conceal the forest. Doesn't want Reid to be thinking about Invigorate already.
Yeah.
You know, this opening from Tom suggests maybe a little bit of a slower hand. And if this prompts Reid to lead off with a land and a Divining Top instead of brainstorming for Force of Will, well, that could just be game one already.
He could just kill him right away.
So I like Tom concealing that information. So many subtle plays, but they're all important.
And it's games like this and starts like this from Infect where it gives you pause in the first land you want to play. Think about how long Reid just took to figure out what land to play. Did he just draw an oh no?
Oh, is that Force of Will back up?
Oh no.
And 2 Invigorates in the Pendelhaven?
Is this the repeat performance of their earlier match right now?
So I count 10 with Force of Will back up.
Oh my goodness, is Gataxian Probe.
Huda Lally.
My goodness. And Tom, just as stone-faced as ever, waiting patiently here for Reid. And Reid may want to respond, and he's going to. Gonna sacrifice Arid Mesa.
I'd be pretty patient, too. It's not like time's going to be an issue.
That's true. We'll have time for that match. We're going to have time for that other match. Here's Volcanic Island.
Figure out you need a Brainstorm, you know. If you drew Source of Plowshares, whatever, let me know. No rush. And Reid even played it conservatively. He didn't even open on Divine Top.
Yep, there's a Red Blast. Your Red Blast is good. Tom, he can't move fast enough. Now he can't move fast enough. He's going to go get a Tropical Island, I imagine. There that is. It's like he's pouncing on his prey once he knows he's good to go. Yeah, I'll pump here.
Don't bother cutting my deck.
I'll Invigorate twice there. I'll get you for 10 there. Yes, I have Force of Will plus blue card in case you're feeling frisky. And Reid is going to pick up his graveyard as well land. That's going to do it yet again. Tom Ross does win game number 1 over Reid Duke on the second turn for the second time in this tournament. In fact, up a game over Miracles. Unbelievable.
You know, sometimes playing the Infect deck looks pretty attractive.
It's hard to say no. It starts like that.
I gotta say.
My goodness, it's sideboard time. It's early on, but we'll take a look at the sideboards here. And now this is good too because, you know, the last time they played, we talked at length about the fact that, okay, well, Reid has 2 copies of Peacekeeper in his deck. And talking to Reid about it, he's like, I'm not afraid to play dirty. I know Tom's going to play Infect, and I want to get him. So he's got 2 Peacekeeper. He's got Engineer Explosives, a Baneslayer Angel, 2 Blue Blasts, a Flusterstorm, a Force of Will, a Red Blast, 2 copies of Spell Pierce, 2 Vendilion Clicks, a Supreme Verdict, and a Terminus. Peacekeeper has to be the best of the bunch.
For sure. And the soft counters here are going to do a lot of work as well. The Flusterstorms, the Red Blast, the Force of Will, Spell Pierces, Terminus, Supreme Verdict, all the removal spells and counters, they're going to come in here as well. But the 2 Peacekeepers, the easiest way for Reid to cheat this one, Tom's out. Besides countering it, only a lone main deck copy of Piracy Charm.
On the other side, there's a Sylvan Library, Crop Rotation, a Force of Will, a Hydroblast, a Grip, a Nature's Claim. 2 Spell Pierce, Force Emerge, Bajuka Bog, Tower of the Magistrate, and a Caracas, that little crop rotation package that Tom has played before in tournaments. What do we like here?
I like the Sylvan Library a lot. I like the Crozan Grip, naturally very good against Counterbalance and Sensei's Divine Top. I don't know if Tom's want to go to Nature's Claim here because It's not that effective at fighting Sensei's Divining Top, nor is it a very good answer against Counterbalance because it costs 1. I could see the 2 Spell Pierces coming in as well to keep Reid off of the marquee cards of the deck. But I don't really like going to the crop rotation package. He doesn't have a great land to go search for. So if anything, I think he's going to get away from crop rotations altogether in his deck.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me if he does move away from that card. So again, Tom is, you take a look at the sideboard with all the 1-ofs, and Tom is such an expert of this deck. What do you slide in? What do you slide out? That's so difficult. It seems like the only person that knows is him.
Well, the package here in the sideboard, not a lot to do, the land package rather, not a lot to do against Miracles. Bajuka Bog for graveyard strategies, Tower of the Magistrate for decks with equipment, Caracas for troublesome legendary permanents, the Reanimator matchup. None of that really applies here. So unless Tom really wants Inkbond Nexus in the matchup and he's willing to just leave in crop rotations to have more access to that card, I think he might get away from crop rotation altogether. There's only 1 copy in his main deck, so it's not a huge cost.
We will see how he does like the sideboard. For right now, we made an announcement a little while ago about the 2015 Open Series schedule. Season 1 and Season 2 have been announced. Season 1, we're starting it off in Columbus. We should start in Ohio. It's the best place after all.
We're hanging out January 3rd and 4th in Columbus, Philly the next weekend, 2 weekends after that in DC, and then Indy the next weekend. The 2nd and 4th of these opens will be Legacy Opens, and Columbus and DC will be standard. We then head over to Houston for the first time in Open Series history. That will be standard as well. Los Angeles the following weekend. Our first ever modern Open Series in Baltimore. A standard Grand Prix the following weekend in Miami. Make sure to stay tuned to MagicGP.com for more information as we get a little bit closer to that event. Dallas the following weekend, which will also be standard. And then the Season 1 Invitational, which will be standard in Legacy for the Invitational, and then standard Open Series that weekend. Richmond, March 27th through 29th. Meet you and Matthias in the booth.
Looking forward to that Season 1 Invitational. We are in Richmond along with the rest of those dates. Houston for the first time during Season 1. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if it's going to be as fun as this tournament, though. These are the most intense and some of the most absurd matches of Magic I have ever watched in my entire life.
We have had, especially in the Legacy portion, it feels like an overwhelming number of turn 1 and turn 2 kills.
Yeah, completely ridiculous.
Reid Duke's match against Ross was one for the archives, absolutely. Tom killing Reid on turn 2 with Force of Will backup yet again.
Crazy. Reid's going to be on the play here, though.
We should talk about trying to make the highlight reel of Tom's turn 2 kills with Force of Will backup with this deck. We could probably cobble together, I'm sure, 3 minutes of tape at this point.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's a Scalding Tarn and passing of the turn. Ross picks up a copy of Spell Pierce, just a Misty Rainforest, and he'll pass the turn back over to Duke. Duke will draw. We're going to play a couple more turns this time. If you remember Game 2 from earlier, when these guys did play, we had a longer game. Inkmoth Nexus is back and forth and all that stuff, but Tom was able to win it.
Don't get ahead of yourself. We could crop rotate here for a Nexus, untap, and kill him, so.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
There's no guarantee. You're probably right.
That's my fault. I do apologize. Piracy Charm is a card that Tom does have in his deck. Did see that. Now here's a Brainstorm in the end of turn. And, of course, he's leaving that in because of Peacekeeper being an option here for the Duke. Being informed right now that Ross Merriam did win game number 1 over Stephen Mann. So Elves up a game over Teamer Delver. Mann, though, does have some nice sideboard options he'll get to use.
And if Ross wins his matchup and Tom wins here, Reid is done.
Okay. Tom with the Verdant Catacombs, he'll pass the turn back over to Reid. Reid will draw. An island and a passing of the turn. Ross with just a Pendlehaven. And he'll pass the turn back over to Duke. So no Infector, just a controlling hand. You see 2 Brainstorms, 2 Spell Pierces, 2 Force of Wills. It looks like is Ross's hand right now. Duke's got to be pleased with how this game is going.
So far, so good, but Tom's hand is capable of improving very quickly.
Sensei's Divining Top there. And now this is a Brainstorm. So 3 cards coming. Spell Pierce, Vine to the Vastwood. And it looks like it's going to be another Vine. So 2 cards will have to go back, and of course, the boss does have a fetch land to make it a perfect one.
But as you mentioned, things shaping up very well for Reid thus far. This Brainstorm not offering any pressure. Tom probably going to have to try to fight over the Sensei's Divining Top because the pace of the game is so slow, and that plays right into Reid's hands.
Force of Will removing Spell Pierce, going after the top. Does not want that in play. And we have seen more and more players when they do play against Miracles fight over Sensei's Divine Top, even if you have to 2 for 1 yourself.
So, interesting enough, Tom has kept both copies of Vines. So what he's saying right now is, there's no immediate rush for me to find a creature. I can find that whenever. What I want to have happen is, when I do draw a creature, I have a lot of insulation for it, because Reid's probably built up a hand with some removal. So Vines can act as either a way to protect a creature from spot removal, or if Reid happens to not have any, a way to just kill Reid. I would have anticipated Tom shuffling away and looking for a threat, but I think he's saying right now there's no real rush.
Especially with no top on the table, since he's able to win that counter war. If top was on the table, maybe it makes him move a little bit faster, but given that there isn't, he's happy with the situation, it seems, thus far, though counterbalance could change some things. It's always a scary card to play against, whether they have a top or not.
Well, Reid's play pattern right now is just saying, nothing's going on, I'm in no rush, I'm not going to let you spell pierce anything, and I'm going to wear you out of resources. If your hand's reactive, Reid's absolutely the better reactive deck.
Tom might sacrifice the fetch land now. Nope, he'll take the Spell Pierce.
I think that Spell Pierce is bad enough that it may warrant him brainstorming now, looking for a threat, and shuffling away the Spell Pierce.
Well, there's the Brainstorm. The threat you have to imagine he's looking for is Inkmoth Nexus, see if he's able to find one.
Yeah, Nexus is the marquee threat here because he moves when Tom decides.
Yeah.
Any other creature he has to put into play, then Reid can fight the battle on his own terms.
Looks like Pendelhaven is one card that's going back. Spell Pierce could be the other. You see a Blighted Agent over there. So Tom has finally found a threat. Treasure Cruise among the cards there.
Treasure Cruise is fine for Tom. I mean, it gives him a consolation prize in the event that, he runs out the Blight Agent and it just dies.
Brainstorm done resolving. Ross will pass the turn back over to the Duke. The Duke will untap and draw.
The play here is very curious because Tom seems to be saying, I feel like I can win even if the game goes on for many turns.
Yeah.
Part of that has to do with the Treasure Cruise in his hand, but he's not rushing his stuff into play. He could have played Blighted Agent last turn. Elects not to. He wants to play it with some amount of protection.
What's really interesting is the fact that Tom did keep Spell Pierce. Seems like it would be so poor right now, but he's already removed 2 from Force of Will. So maybe the thought process here from Reid is, well, maybe I can resolve a big spell and not have to worry about Spell Pierce, but he's just going to start with a Brainstorm.
Also, the pace of play right now is just, if Reid untapped and slammed down Jace the Mind Sculptor, Tom's probably done for. So that's a reason, too, to keep Spell Pierce in hand.
No, Brainstorm, done resolving. And now here's top. Tom will take a long look at his hand. Tom going to sacrifice Verdant Catacombs on his upkeep before he does draw a card, as you know some of the cards that are coming and would like a fresh look. So Tropical Island will be searched for and put into play.
But with the pace of this game being so slow, you can tell Reid has no interest in playing into a potential Spell Pierce. Might as well blank those cards.
Yeah.
As long as nothing too chaotic is happening, Reid's got a huge edge.
Well, here's Blight Agent. It's time to put him to the test. The first creature, at a passing of the turn, with a healthy amount of Vines backup. Spin the top here, will the Duke. Do have to be wary of Terminus, but Reid doesn't have as many as most people normally do. 2 in the main, then 1 in the board. Gonna sacrifice Scalding Turn right now, so perhaps he wasn't happy with the top 3 cards that he did see.
And Tom's not going to do anything sloppy here in the face of a potential instant speed Terminus. If it were up to him, I'm sure he would just like to attack with Blighted Agent, pump with Pendelhaven.
Not do much more than that.
Right, make Reid respond first before Tom plays over the top of anything.
So he'll spin the top again now that he does have a land and play at a fresh 3 to look at. See if he likes what he sees. Does have the opportunity to sacrifice a fetch line again if he'd like, given the Flooded Shrine that's in play. But those fetch lines are so important when there's a top out there.
Yeah, just the operations with this deck are really complicated. I talked to Reid after his match with Ross, and Reid was complaining to me that one turn he should have Fate Sealed himself with Jace instead of brainstorming one turn, and he could have ended up costing him the game. After that magnificent game that he played, he still looked back and said, I could have played better. The deck's just so hard to play.
Here's the counterbalance. Now Duke's trying to lock Ross out of actually getting to play the game. Cards like Vines of the Vastwood may be no good now.
Keep in mind, Ross still has his one copy of Crow's Hand Grip.
Mm-hmm. Spell Pierce.
This is a very threatening Spell Pierce if you're on Reid's side of the table. Tom saying, I just want to tap you low here. Maybe that represents a kill, but I think the major reason here is that the Spell Pierce is not going to do very much once this combination resolves, and the 2 mana might represent a large opportunity cost for Reid this turn. For example, if he's floating something specific on top of his deck, then to top again, he would have to sacrifice the Flooded Strand.
At the very least, it'll make him think. Pyroblast. That'll take care of this. Reid will sacrifice the Flooded Strand and pay 2 for the Pierce. Good play there by Reid. Kind of seeing through maybe some of Tom's tricks there.
It's a good window to do this.
Yeah.
Now, this probably opens up a window for Tom to resolve Treasure Cruise. But powering through this combo is going to be challenging unless Tom finds his copy of Crow's Hand Grip.
And he needs Grip or Inkmoth Nexus. Something like that. All right, there's the Cruise.
Now remember, Reid's got Dig Through Time.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's just a blast. So 3 cards coming, Invigorate. Among them, also a Vines and a Misty Rainforest. So none of those are Inkmoth Nexus. Just a passing of the turn here from Ross.
No Crow's Hand Grip either for Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Just bad news.
Reid's in the driver's seat right now. He'll just pass the turn back. Glistener off the draw. That one's not all that great either. And this is part of the problem when you play against Miracles, when playing Infect. If they can get this assembled on a relatively clear board, life is pretty good.
And you can see why it's such a challenge game 1 because, you know, Reid just died. Even if he had the lock, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yep.
But post-board, Reid has more resistance, and Tom's hand was not that fast to begin with.
Noble Hierarch the draw. Tom will just have to play draw go for a little while. He's just got a lot of 1-mana spells in his hand, but with topless counterbalance out there, those 1-mana spells will not matter unless Tom draws a Crow's Hand Grip. Ross will draw a Verdant Catacombs.
And even Crow's Hand Grip is no sure thing, because remember, Reid can just keep floating a 3 on top. You still get the counterbalance trigger.
Blighted Agent. That one's a little bit different. 2-mana spell. Don't know if Ross has any interest in casting it.
Now, hypothetically, that card could resolve, but I think Tom knows that the odds are so long that it's unlikely to resolve. He could try to finagle it by leading off with one of his casters, hoping that Reid puts a counter, the Divine Top on top, and then he can resolve his 2. But even still, the odds are extremely low.
Sacrifice the Arid Mesa. Yeah, Reid's got him in a great spot right now. He's got him, you know, he's just doing his thing. Setting up his draw every turn. And it has him where he wants him.
No rush.
Not at all.
No rush to act.
This is where he wants to be. If you're not doing anything, I'll win at my leisure.
He knows a huge percentage of Tom's deck right now is not online.
And Ross will have to discard. He'll go with Noble Hierarch before passing the turn back. That one's not very useful right now. Duke very quickly draws and passes the turn back. Tom draws a copy of Inkmoth Nexus. That will finally allow him to at least play the game.
And that card is going to give Reid some pause. You can see some hesitation there from Reid. This is the card that matters.
Ross Merriam wins his match over Stephen Mann 2-0. So at the very least, Ross Merriam will be playing on. We'll see if it'll be in the elimination rounds in the top 4 or an elimination match. But he's still playing.
What the scenario means is Reid Duke right now, he's looking at a clean advancement to the semifinals, the first overall seed of this bracket if he wins, and he is done for if he loses.
Okay. And we know who Stephen Mann's rooting for.
Tom Ross, on the other hand, playing for second or third.
Glistener Elf is how the boss will lead out the turn.
And now he's going to be a lot more aggressive about deploying one casting cost cards because of the threat of the Nexus.
Yep.
That land, even if Tom doesn't activate it, it changes a lot about how this game gets played.
It looks like Glistener Elf is just in. Wow. You got to get very creative to get around counterbalance with Sensei's Divining Top, and Tom is trying to do just that.
Well, Reid has a lot of respect for what Tom is capable of doing with that Nexus. So if he's, say, for example, floating a Terminus right now, he may not be willing to make a move on the Glistener Elf.
3 mana here. Oh, we're going to keep the peace.
Sweet.
Peacekeeper has arrived with its 1 point of power. You see Reid put 2 lands underneath it.
Now, this is very hard for Tom to get out of because the only answer in his deck to a resolve Peacekeeper is the one Piracy Charm. The lock is in place, so Tom has to be able to Crozan Grip the counterbalance or the Divining Top, and then hopefully his Piracy Charm resolves. That is asking a lot.
Yes, it is. Sensei's Divining Top will be revealed to take care of the Gataxian Probe. Now Ross will just pass the turn back, so Peacekeeper is here. Again, Reid did mention, hey, I'm not above fighting dirty to try to beat this guy.
This is as dirty as it gets.
Piracy Charm is the out. Now, Tom does have it in his hand. Tom will draw a forest. He'll play it. Spin that top. Reid going to quickly untap and draw. There's another copy of Sensei's Divining Top. Pass the turn back. And you may be wondering, how does Reid win in this situation? Well, Jace is one way. Entreat the Angels is another. He entreats for a large amount, doesn't pay the upkeep on Peacekeeper, and, well, now he can attack. So, does have a couple of ways. But Peacekeeper is the lock against the boss. That's the trick.
As long as Reid continues to float a 3, he's got it sewn up. He wins however he wants to.
Invigorate the draw there for Ross. You've seen Reid go to different 3-mana spells before to try to beat Infect. We've seen him do with Blood Moon before. But this is an entirely new dimension.
This is the cheatiest of the cheaty ways to get.
It really, really is.
But I'm sure after, the several wailings that Reid has taken at Tom's hand, this got to feel pretty good.
Enough is enough. Engineer Explosives on 1. Here's a Blighted Agent. A Blighted Agent that cannot attack, mind you. A spinning of the top. Take a look at the top 3. See if he's got a 2 to reveal.
Or if he even cares.
He may not. He really may not care at all.
As long as Reid was studious about what exactly is in Tom's deck, he knows that this does not mean too much.
There's Source of Plowshares.
Reid's about to discard a hand size anyway, so I suppose why not?
Tom gets a little bit of extra life due to Pendlehaven.
Every edge.
That's right. You're not going to get me.
And you see Reid setting the lands aside with the Peacekeeper.
Yeah.
No chance he wants to forget the upkeep on that one.
Nope. They're sitting underneath there. They may never move. Inkmoth Nexus number 2. Reid going to spin that top yet again. Gotta love the situation he's in.
I would imagine so.
Got a counterbalance Engineer Explosives on 1. Peacekeeper in play. Nothing can go too wrong. Now he just has to find a way to win it. Jace is 1 and treats the other. We're gonna
Peacekeeper's partner in crime.
Ah, yes. We're going to keep the peace again. This is an even harder lock now. And Tom has had enough. Reid Duke is going to win game number 2 here against Tom Ross, and we're headed to a third one between these two great players.
The second Peacekeeper makes it completely impossible as long as Reid remembers the upkeep. So at that point, Tom's happy to let it go. In the spot that they were in, Tom still has the faintest of hope of being able to Crozan Grip away the counterbalance, resolve the Piracy Charm, and then maybe win the game. But once the second Peacekeeper shows up, that's it. Game's over.
Lock it up. Peacekeeper. Peacekeeper, take it down. I
Fighting
didn't think
dirty.
I didn't think I'd say that this weekend, but Peacekeeper does get the job done. They're going to go back to the drawing board here and get ready for game number 3, a very, very important one. While they do that, we will talk about Season 2 of 2015. That has been announced as well, a shorter season, but we'll fire it off in Syracuse.
Yeah, back to Syracuse, back to Providence, Cleveland for the first time in a little while. Your hometown, home city. Excited to do that one. And then the following weekend, we go to where you live now in Seattle, Washington. Following up that stretch of opens, as we move over to the next page, we have Dallas, Worcester, and then a modern open series with modern and standard as the invitational format, the Season 2 Invitational Origins Game Fair, Columbus, Ohio, June 5th through 7th. Meet you and Matthias once again.
Looking forward to all those dates, but of course the Cleveland one, where perhaps I'll let you meet the parental units. My mom does make a mean black cup of coffee.
You got a deal.
Just for you.
You let me know when that can happen.
And would you prefer the plain bagel or the everything bagel?
Plain? No, everything.
Everything. Okay, gotcha. Got a good bagel place right outside of my house, like 5 minutes away.
So, in my opinion, the bagels that score higher than plain.
Okay.
Short list. Everything. Sesame, poppy, onion. End of list.
Everything, sesame, poppy seed, onion.
Yes.
I don't ever want to eat any of the 4 bagels you just listed.
Yeah, everything else grades lower.
Have you ever had a cinnamon crunch bagel from Panera?
That's candy. That's not a bagel. So, no. If I wanted to do that, I would go and buy Skittles.
Have you ever had a French toast bagel?
I assume it's roughly the same thing.
That's not candy. It's just a worse bagel.
So, no.
It's a worse bagel.
I have not.
All right. Your favorite kind of cream cheese or a schmear?
Plain.
Yeah.
So we got catered today. You know, we have food for all the players. Bagels were part of it for the breakfast. And of course, as always, whenever someone is assigned to go and get bagels, they get half of the cream cheese is plain, and then half are these disgusting blueberry, hazelnut, almond spreads. And guess what? Guess what happened? I go to get a bagel this afternoon, and guess what cream cheese is left, like every single time? The disgusting flavored ones no one ever eats. All the plain, gone hours ago.
If Panera had strawberry cream cheese, I would love it. They don't.
What are the bagels that are left over? All the sugar, whipped cream, you know?
Rubbish.
Yeah.
Well, look, all I got to tell you is I enjoyed my cinnamon crunch bagel with honey walnut cream cheese.
All right, well, you are one of, one that ended up doing that based on what was left over this afternoon.
I also now have a cavity, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Because it was delicious and, well, not nutritious.
It's not a bagel, and it's not cream cheese either.
You're a hater.
It's neither.
You are a hater. It's okay, though. You are who you are. I am who I am. For what it's worth, I do respect, like, the plain bagel plus plain cream cheese. I do respect that approach.
They got it right the first time. Some things, you don't need to make fancier. Got it right the first time.
Just keep it simple.
Exactly. Again, as a reminder, implications here. Reid wins. First overall seed out of Group B, advances directly to the semifinals. If he loses, his tournament's over. Tom, one way or the other, is going to have to play a win-in next round. The question is he on the play or is he on the draw?
That's the big question.
Means a lot more to Reid than to Tom, that's for sure. I mean, it matters a lot to both players, but Reid, it's a straight shot to the top 4 or joining Joe Lissette.
Game number 3 between Reid Duke and Tom Ross. It's a turn 1 Glistener Elf. Is Reid dead? Is he dead right now?
Got invigorating the Force Will and a blue card, so.
Reid gonna draw.
So Tom's hand does not have a second land. It's Force of Will, blue card, Spell Pierce among them, Piracy Charm, Invigorate. So a lot of upside to this hand.
This is just the worst feeling. It has to be the worst feeling if you read. I could die. It's happened twice this weekend already.
They've danced this dance a couple of times already.
Yeah. Well, here's a Tundra off a Flooded Strand.
Reid even played conservatively in Game 1. Played to allow himself to brainstorm or Red Blast instead of casting his Divine Top. Still got killed.
Let's see what this is. Swords of Plowshares. Force of Will. Removing Spell Pierce. Will Reid fight back? I believe Reid does have a Force of Will in his hand right now.
Tom has to fight back because his hand goes nowhere.
Yep.
If something happens to this Glistener Elf. I mean, this is a very gutsy keep. If he draws a blue source, he has Blade Edge in his backup. But if he misses his draw step, he's just going to pass on turn 2. And not too hard for Reid to take over the game from that spot.
Duke going to give this a lot of thought. Do I fight back? He will. Forceful removing Jace the Mind Sculptor. And Glistener Elf is going to bite the dust. Ross will untap and draw. Is it a blue source of mana? It is not Spell Pierce since a passing of the turn. A risky keep, and it has not paid off. Duke with an island and just passing it back. Ross will draw. It's a Crozen Grip and a passing of the turn. Duke. Looks like he has land number 3. It's a plateau. He'll pass it back to Ross. Ross will draw. Sylvan Library.
Is this where Reid finally gets to exercise this demon?
Sensei's Divining Top. Pass it back.
His entire tournament on the line.
When you go on to the top 4, lose, you're done. And right now, it looks like he is winning. He'll spin a top, as Ross's hand has not come together very well at all here. Losing the war over Glistener Elf. Duke will draw. Quickly play Flooded Strand, pass the turn back. Misty Rainforest, finally a blue source of mana here for the boss. Tropical Islands, what he searches up.
And the victim of all of this, if Reid goes on to win, Steven Mann. The player who just barely snuck in to the Players' Championship will be done for.
It's been a big year for him, big run for him. It'd be a tough way to go. Here's Sylvan Library.
Tom needs to cast something this turn, but he needs to cast something that could be described as a non-essential element.
Yeah.
He can't afford to lose his other creature. If the Sylvan Library sticks, awesome. If it gets countered, at least you still have your Blighted Agent.
Spin that top. Reid gonna rearrange. We'll see if he sacrifices the fetch land or not. Nope, no need. Here's a Brainstorm though. He'll draw 3. Put 2 back, of course, which means that once he sets them back and spins the top again, the 3rd card down will be a new one. But Reid is very far ahead in this game, and Tom is looking to play catch-up. Sylvan Library does have a way of doing that, though.
You know, Reid's got, of course he has Divine Top in play, and that's also to bad news, but nothing too threatening otherwise is going on at this stage. Tom does have his one of Piracy Charm in hand that he can answer a Peacekeeper with. He has his one of Crozan Grip, so he has an answer to the Divine Top or Counterbalance should it show up. So even though things have gotten off to a bleak start here, he does have Sylvan Library in play, and he has answers to Reid's 2 biggest trumps in the matchup, Counterbalance, Lock, and Peacekeeper.
Well, that's a step in the right direction, and really that's all you can ask for thus far.
For as bad as things have gone, Tom's got a shot.
Take a look at the top 3. Pendlehaven, Inkmoth Nexus, and Force of Will. Not bad.
In this library against Reid, I mean, Tom can be very aggressive, taking 3 cards, 2 cards a time.
Perhaps that's what Reid wants him to do. Then all of a sudden treat the Angels out of nowhere. 3 mana, Vendilion Click, yes. It wouldn't surprise me if Reid sideboarded in such a fashion that he wants Tom to aggressively use that Sylvan Library, because he's done it before. Here's Force of Will. Removing Blighted Agent. Tom will take 1. See if this resolves.
And he's removing a Blighted Agent here after turns of not really casting creatures. It indicates he's trying to take the game into a slightly different tack, whether it's Inkmoth Nexus or whether it's trying to play some sort of card advantage game for a little while.
Vendilion Click loses that war. There's Inkmoth. Just a passing of the turn.
And again, the Inkmoth Nexus gives Reid a pause.
Worthy of one. Scary card.
It is the card that most contorts Reid's play, at least of all the infect threats.
Duke will draw. Now he'll draw a card with top right now. He knew what it was. Looks like he's got big plans now. Perhaps it's time to keep the peace. Yes, sir.
But Tom can do a little finagling here because he has a Piracy Charm to kill this thing at a moment's notice. So he might be happy with Reid being tied up for mana for a little while Tom draws a bunch of cards, and then going for a kill when he feels confident he can play over the top of whatever Reid has to offer on defense.
A couple of cards here Ross is looking at from Sylvan Library. Pendlehaven among them, also a Daze, and a Verdant Catacombs. Reid fighting dirty yet again. Ross going to pay 4 life to get another card. There's Pendlehaven.
I mean, you can tell Tom's building up a hand that's going to be able to play over the top of a lot of disruption on the other side.
For someone who missed their second land drop for, 4 or 5 turns, he's right back in this thing.
It's hard to tell who was the one missing land drops at this point.
Peacekeeper upkeep, well, that's taken care of, and it will be for some time now. 2 lands underneath that thing, though Reid could let it go at some point. Is it time to redeploy? Yes, it is. Sensei's Divine Top. The one thing that's interesting about Piracy Charm is, yes, it is an answer. Here's a Crozing Grip. I'll take care of that. But Piracy Charm, we can't forget, is blue. So Red Blast works its way into the equation.
It does. But Tom's building up a hand here that's going to be able to play over the top. Reid's also tight on mana right now. He has to pay 2 mana every turn for the Peacekeeper. He's missing land drops. Part of the reason that Tom went after the Divine Top is because he's trying to set up a spot where he does a ton of stuff all in one turn. He doesn't want Reid being able to make his land drops to be able to fight back when Tom makes his big push.
It's a probe. There's a blast. It's the red variety, along with Force of Will, Dig Through Time, and Brainstorm. And that's the kind of card I think that Reid is going to keep available for some time now. Leave the shields up for Red Blast. Doesn't want Piracy Charm to work its way into this. Peacekeeper still in play. But Reid a little bit bottlenecked on mana.
That's a big draw for Reid. Getting a land here is huge.
Yeah.
You see Tom's hand, though, Spell Pierce and Daze. Not inconceivable that he could win a fight even against Red Blast and Force of Will.
Yep. Tom going to quickly sacrifice the fetch line. He's down to 5.
But remember, he only gets 1 shot at it.
Yes.
If the Piracy Charm gets countered, that's it. The game's over.
Yep.
So he's got to wait until he's sure he can win the fight. He can't only be half sure.
Right now he knows the contents of what Duke has in hand. Pyroblast and Force of Will, probably the most important of the bunch. Tom looking at a Force of Will of his own, along with Enigma Nexus and a fetch land from Sylvan Library. Can't really afford to pay much more life here, can the boss? So only take 1 card. It'll be Force of Will. And Reid trying to hang on with that Peacekeeper. Tom trying to pick his spot. Pass the turn back over to Duke. Will Duke maybe make a move with a card like Dig Through Time, something like that? It looks like the answer is currently no. He'll just take a draw step. He'll pass the turn back. Don't know what that card is. We just know it's on a land.
Every draw step where Reid misses a land drop, he's getting further and further in the territory where he will not be able to resist everything Tom brings to the table when he makes his move.
Tom looking at a couple of cards here. Take one of them. It's a Noble Hierarch. That's not so bad. It's additional mana and Exalted. Pass that turn back. He's building towards something. Reid gonna sacrifice a Scalding Tarn on the upkeep. Life total for him doesn't really matter all that much. But he's down to 17. Take a look at the hand. Again, Dig Through Time, Force of Will, Red Blast, and a Brainstorm over there. Mystery card as well. Volcanic Island taken out of the deck. Perhaps an upkeep Dig Through Time. Yes. So he'll get to take a look at the top 7. And take 2 with him. But Tom says, how about a little Spell Pierce?
He's just trying to get Reid's shields down here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's still got that Daze in hand, too.
Reid's gonna pay.
And second Spell Pierce.
Could have used Daze there, electing to use second Spell Pierce instead.
Well, I think he wants the free counter spell available for his own turn.
Yep.
Because basically at this spot, Reid needs to draw red mana to be able to cast the Pyroblast in his hand.
Yep.
The Daze covers the Force of Will.
This was an end of turn one. Okay. I thought it was going to be on the upkeep.
Yeah,
It's
it
end of
looked-
turn.
yep.
It did look like it may have been on the upkeep, but clarification is key. It was just an end of turn, dig through time. Tom did not want that to resolve. 2 mana, counterbalance. Well, there's a wrench. Duke leaving up both sources of red mana. Counterbalance giving Tom so much pause here. It's so tough because if he just plays his Piracy Charm and there's 1 mana spell on top, dead.
Yep. But he knows that right now Reid could win the fight over Piracy Charm with the Red Blast in his hand and the Force of Will, so he can't make a move. He's just got to let Counterbalance enter play.
Tom going to take Force of Will off Sylvan Library. Is it go time? Perhaps it's cruise time. Yep. It's a good test spell.
Tom just hoping he can get the Pyroblast out of Reid's hand.
That, or, you know, maybe if Reid reveals the top card to his deck, see if the coast is clear. You know, a little bit of information. Swords the Plowshares. No Piracy Charm this turn.
I think with Source of Plowshares on top, Tom's going to maybe have to push this turn.
He just can't go anywhere now. There's another Ink Moth and just pass the turn back. Just can't make a move. Now that there's not a 1 on top of the deck, at least he thinks Piracy Charm is back on again, and Reid's just going to quickly pass the turn back with mana available. Tom will draw. We'll take a look, excuse me. Then he'll draw. Takes a copy of Spell Pierce, plays a Verdant Catacombs, passes the turn back. When will one of these players make their move? Lance big. Arid Mesa just pass the turn back. Sylvan Library again. Brainstorm. Noble Hierarch. Tropical Island are the cards. Brainstorm goes to the grip. There's a Misty. Pass the turn back. Duke will just draw. Another land. Lands again are pretty good for him here. Tom gonna make a move. It's a Brainstorm.
And this is in part to just see if the coast is clear.
Mm-hmm. Top card. Coast is not clear. Not clear at all. Brainstorm will take care of Brainstorm. Sylvan Library time. Vines of the Vastwood among them, probably the best card of the group, so he'll take that.
Though the Brainstorm is really bad news for Tom here because paired with the Source of Plowshares that's in Reid's hand, he has the ability to get a 1 on top of the deck at a moment's notice.
When he finally goes for it with Piracy Charm, and he will at some point because he has to, it's going to be a huge fight.
Yep. We're going to have the staring match. Tom's accumulated some valuable information through the Gataxian probe, through a couple of these reveals off of Counterbalance. And when he picks a spot, I think we're going to see a stack of 5, 6, 7 spells and triggers.
Library time. Blighted Agent, Noble Hierarch, Misty Rainforest, Blighted Agent. Again, maybe it's a real spell, maybe it's not. Trigger, 1 mana, Source of Plowshares, no Piracy Charm this turn. Reid's hand is loaded up. It's really good. Gonna sacrifice the Scalding Tarn here. Looks like Reid doesn't want to draw the swords.
Well, at this point, he's already got Brainstorm plus a 1-coster in his hand to fight over Piracy Charm through Counterbalance. And the game's about Peacekeeper, not removal.
Yeah.
So even though Source of Plowshares looks like an attractive draw here, right now, Reid's actually in the market for counter spells.
So he'll take a mystery draw instead. So important to note, Reid wins this match, moves on to the top 4. He loses, it's over. His tournament is done. Ross takes a Brainstorm. He'll cast a Brainstorm. Trigger, take a look, Force of Will. So now 3 cards here for the boss, Noble Hierarch, Misty Rainforest, and Ink Moth next. It's not the best 3 you've ever seen.
But Tom still can't make a move this turn because Force of Will on top shuts out his Force of Will to be able to fight over anything. The Brainstorm plus Source of Plowshares means he can win a fight over Piracy Charm, even ignoring the counters in Reid's hand. And then next turn, Reid gets to draw a Force of Will if he wants to.
Well, he's making a move right now.
Okay.
He's taking his shot.
This is the game right here.
Yep.
This is Reid Duke's tournament. How does he want to navigate this stack against Tom Ross with a full hand of cards?
And Tom Ross casts that spell confidently. And Reid, arms crossed, sitting back in the chair. It's time to figure it out.
This is either Reid's entire tournament or Stephen Mann's entire tournament right now.
+2, -1. That's the mode on Piracy Charm. He'll lead with Pyroblast. He'll go with Force of Will. But Reid knows what's on top of his deck. It's a Force of Will. So that'll take care of that. And has Tom made an error?
I mean, this looks like a dead end to me. He can't force back. The Spell Pierce doesn't do anything.
And it looks like Ross has just made a critical error in his planning. Maybe hoping that Duke doesn't reveal to counterbalance. But his Piracy Charm has been taken care of. And now he's just going to draw and say go.
I mean, this is the luck. That's the one out that Tom has.
He's going to keep activating Sylvan Library here. He'll draw a card, just pass the turn back. And perhaps Ross, given the pressure of the match and the situation, had forgotten that Force of Will was on top.
And Reid knows. I mean, they have each other's deck lists. He knows that this is the lock. He's fought dirty.
Tom going to get a couple of lands out of his deck there. Down at 2 life now. But these Peacekeepers, 2 in the sideboard, 1 currently in play. The sole reason that Duke is playing this card is to beat Tom.
Game 2, I feel like Reid might have been able to win regardless. Game 3, this is the pure cheats.
Yeah. 1 mana spell, Sensory's Vine top. That'll take care of that. Reid going to change up how he wants to pay the upkeep on Peacekeeper now that he has a couple of basics in play. Sensei top. And what's funny is that Reid can just sit here and really not do very much and not care. Force of Will is going to be hard cast on the Sensei's Divining top. But Tom continues to just game on as though nothing has changed. So here's a Brainstorm.
We know that Reid's still with Force of Will in hand, so this is just another opportunity to counter for free.
Yeah.
Now remember, this is not the end of the line for Tom if he loses.
Yep.
He will simply be on the draw.
And that is going to do it. Reid Duke is going to win this match here over Tom Ross. 2-1. Miracles will take down Infect. And the Duke has exercised this particular demon.
And this is, how many elimination matches has Reid played so far in this tournament? Is this